How's everyone doing tonight? Well, tonight I'll be interviewing Hassan Jama, the infamous repeat oh shit offender. He'll be here to talk to us about 5G and why it's so harmful for us all, which is what we all want to hear, right? We want to hear that our doom is impending and we're all going to die very soon from this 5G network. Hassan's going to break it down for us. And we might, hit you up with some perspective that you guys weren't even considering. I'm going to welcome him in. And in true oh shit fashion, this probably won't work right away. Hope everyone's doing well. I tried to get pretty because, if all else fails and I can't get back to hair. Hi!
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. I was just telling everybody I'm trying to look pretty so that if I fail and I can't get back to doing hair, at least I can maybe be famous.
I'm in gym clothes all day, every day.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. How you been?
Good, good. I just ate because of the fasting.
Sahtain. So Hassan, everybody has been waiting for you to tell them all about why 5G is going to kill them. Now, before we get into that, do you have the energy to continuously explain how they are not going to die from this millimeter wave?
I mean, I don't have the energy for that because I've explained it like 1,000 times. But even you don't even have to talk about that. You need to understand. People need to understand the basics of what 5G is.
Now, so, Hassan, I can't hear you very well. There's like a wind.
Okay, hold on. Let me. Yeah. So people need to understand, like at a high level, what the technology is. Like what is 5G. So if you ask somebody, most people have no idea. They wouldn't be able to explain it. They just know that they think it's bad, right?
Yeah.
So if you ask somebody, what is it? It's very simple. So it's just an extension of technology on top of something that was already there. So before we had old cell phones, we had GSM, 2G, 3G, 4G, LTE, and now you have 5G, which is generation. And basically what that does is it allows for a lot of new things to happen. As humans, you don't need 5G in terms of our day-to-day stuff. 4G gives you pretty much what you need in terms of speeds. Like right now, you can get good speeds from 4G as far as communication between people. But that's the only thing people are seeing, right? The reason why they need 5G is not that. It's not to improve that. There's way more things that they want to do industrial-wise. Technology, robotics, machine to machine, machine to human. And those things need much more speed. And not just more speed, they need ultra-reliable connections. So 4G is not really reliable. Wi-Fi is not reliable. And so it's just another leap in technology. It's like saying you went from this type of car to this type of car to this type of car. I mean, it's still a car and it's still cellular, but it's just more power, more efficient, more coverage. There's just the key things that it produces. People don't understand, so they won't know what it's going to help them day to day. And that's the problem. People don't understand, right? So they don't understand the dangers. And when someone explains the dangers to them, they fear it because they don't. Usually, the people explaining the dangers also don't understand it. Right. So that's kind of like the number one problem. So if you hear 5G, you just think, oh, something new, it must be bad. But really, 5G is just an extension on top of what 4G was doing. It's just doing it better, faster, and more efficient. So it saves the company money. It's faster for you. You're going to get more things done, and there's much better future applications. So all this 5G that's getting deployed, the networks. So how this works is the networks deploy a network. Let's say all the cellular companies, they would put out the network, which is like an enabler. So now it's up to the companies and the smart people to start to see, okay, how could we use that to make things better for us? So the applications are not even all there, and they won't be there for like another 10 years. It's like when 4G came out, it didn't just come out and everybody had a 4G phone and everything was working. Most people didn't have a 4G phone. Most people don't have a 5G phone. They don't even have all the right phones working for 5G yet. So it's always a step behind. So now it's up to those companies and businesses and governments to say, okay, how can we improve the city's efficiency in power consumptions? How can we improve the driver safety and automation? How can we improve ports with automation, robotics? How can we do surgeries in hospitals with no latency? So I can do a surgery and some guy can be in Japan and he'll just, through robotics, it'll perfectly do my heart and there won't be any disruptions. So there's a lot of good that people don't grasp because no one's thought about all the full applications. And then there's the whole smart city and the efficiency of a smart city. But with that also comes some potential privacy issues like facial recognition and voice. You're going to be seen all the time, and that could be used in a bad way if someone wants. And then there's other effects of possible misuse. But as far as physical danger, there is no difference in the level of RF radiation that you're experiencing from existing cellular to what 5G is going to do. So no one can convince me otherwise because I understand it inside out. And we've worked, like the company I work for, we've been working with this kind of stuff for a long time. So it's nothing new.
So Hassan, would it be safe to say that 4G is actually worse off for you than the 5G network?
Yeah. So let me explain why it works. Okay, so how 5G works, 4G works is you have a tower. So the towers have like a specific type of antenna. And these antennas, they're not new in design, so they're inefficient and they can only do like a big beam. So let's say now the tower is pointing to an area. There's a big lobe and all those people get that signal. So the signal, it's not precise, so it's inefficient. It takes a lot of power to power the station and give that signal. And all those people have to share that signal. So,
Yes.
it's an inefficient system. It's a dumb system. And also the software that talks to it, that controls that beam, it's old. Now, why 5G is better? Like, why 5G is so much faster? People don't understand. So they have a much smarter antenna design. So in aviation, we use these antennas. They're called like beam forming or beam steering. So you have multiple little antennas, and the software is so smart that basically, if you have 30 people, the antenna will know precisely where that guy is and how much power he needs. So it won't give him too much power. 4G just blasts all the time. And there's no sleep modes. So 5G blasts specifically to that user. Once he's done, it turns off, so there's sleep mode. So it saves a lot of energy, and everybody now is getting their own beam, so they're getting much more speeds, like 50 to 100. Eventually, when the phone technology catches up, they'll be getting ridiculous speeds. You'll download a movie in like 2 seconds. But that's the beam steering technology of how to aim. That's what makes it faster, and there's no latencies. And it can also do simultaneous people at the same time, which 4G cannot do. So 4G, if you're in a stadium, you've been to a stadium or somewhere where there's a big event and you don't get any LTE. That's why, because you have one tower trying to service 2,000 people. You can't do it. But 5G is smart. Everybody will be fine. Everybody will get their little piece, and the tower controls power. Same with your phone, and it always requests the minimum power to keep that connection. So you don't get unnecessary energy. You're not getting any waste. So it's more efficient, it's cheaper to run, and it's safer because you're getting less power to you. It's not just shooting out.
So then what is with the hyped up fear around it? What are people so afraid of? Are they afraid of privacy being lost or just being zapped?
I think the number one fear is because every argument is based on how 5G works. It's like layer. So I'm going to explain. It's like a cake. So the first layer is a low frequency, which the governments, so cellular companies have to buy or auction frequency. So it's like, let's say your radio station, you want 88, 89.9. That's yours now. So the government sells these frequencies, and you have a low band, a mid band, and a high band, right? And so right now, the current configurations in different countries, they look at all the scenarios that the government will allow them to have, plus what's cheapest for them to deploy. So in Canada, we have none of the high frequency. That's what people are worried about. They're called millimeter wave. We have only low frequency. So we have the existing 4G band, which is, so those are frequencies we already had. There's nothing new on top of that. All we're changing is the antenna configuration. So that's why you'll see they're updating antennas. And they're putting small little ones. They're called small cells. Because those small cells take that signal and the little extenders in the neighborhood, so that the tower doesn't have to go super far. So the tower is a macro. It takes a large area, several kilometers. And then there's little towers that repeat that signal or extend that signal. So that's how 5G works. Even 4G had that. But what I was saying is, the issue is people are worried about the high frequency, which Canada doesn't have, UK doesn't have, China doesn't have. Most of those countries don't want to do it because the high frequency is very expensive and it's a very degrading signal. When you have a high frequency, you have a smaller wave. The technology is not there to get it to go through, it sees interference in leaves, rain, and it's too costly. So Canada has a low frequency. They took a TV frequency. So I think Canada has 600 megahertz, which is very low. This is something we used for TV a long time ago. And with that, they're able to use the new antennas and get a signal that's very far. And that's good for rural. So like to get a long coverage. And then on top of that, they have the normal frequencies for 4G with the better antenna. So now they can cover all the farm area, all the area where there was no signal before, plus all the downtown and all that. And they're getting crazy speeds. So they don't need to go to millimeter wave, because millimeter wave is going to cost them billions of dollars, and they're not willing to invest. And the technology, meaning the cell phones, are not really compatible with that. So that's why people are scared of the millimeter wave, because of certain applications of millimeter wave in military. So you cannot compare a military application to a cellular application. And I'll tell you why. So the millimeter waves that are used in the army, like the Israeli army have it, the US Army, they have like a crowd control system where it shoots like a high power beam and it makes your skin kind of warm up. So people will just leave the crowd, like they'll disperse. So, and they've done testing on that long-term, extensive testing. It's just a physical feeling, meaning like fire, not physically fire, but it's a warm sensation. There's no penetration because they're non-ionizing still. So, and then so people are thinking, oh my God, the 5G signal is gonna fry me like that signal. So let's compare. When you talk frequency, it's not only frequency. First of all, those are much higher frequencies. They're at 96 gigs and above. Those are military applications, but they're still tested for safety. They're not designed to kill you. They're designed to like disperse. So the 5G that's deployed at millimeter wave in current technology is around 26 gig, 36 gig, depending on certain countries. Italy and I think South Korea and Japan have it. And that power level is so low in comparison. So you have a cell phone puts out like 1 watt, and the biggest power would, let's say, put out 100, 150 watts, compared to that weapon, which puts out 100 kilowatts to 300 kilowatts. So your magnitude of order is so much higher that you cannot compare something that's designed to cause damage and cause people to run away versus a cellular signal, which by the time it reaches the user is very weak. It's enough to connect this, but it will never give you any harm. And next, to add on top of that, that frequency is well below the ionizing stage. So if you look at how the spectrum is for electromagnetic fields, right? From radios to, well, even before radios, like if you go to power lines, then you have radios, television, cellular phones, microwave, Wi-Fi is before that. Eventually you get to UV light, which is way higher. It's in the, I think UV is in the one, past the terahertz. So it's a very high frequency, past infrared, and that is potentially dangerous, right? But it's still non-ionizing. So you have UV rays that people are exposed to every day. People go tanning, people go into tanning beds, and you look at the highest, if you look at the highest millimeter wave of cell phone, it's way below UV. So you cannot tell me that there's going to be any more danger than what you're experiencing day to day from light. And it's still magnitudes of order less and less power, because the sun, that UV rays that you're getting are still high power. And then you have ionizing. So basically the UV rays can still not damage you in terms of getting into you and causing DNA damage and cellular damage to atoms, where you'll disrupt the atom or the molecule, like it'll have a disruption in the electrons. That only happens with X-rays, when you go do specific scans in the hospital. Those are like extremely high frequencies that they give you specific protection from, and you could only do that once in a while for reasons, right? Obviously, they know that there's a danger with it, and that potentially, after long term, can cause you to have, effects within the body.
But that's because it's direct, right? It's like literally on you at that point.
No, it's not only on you. That electromagnetic energy is enough to disrupt the atoms in your body, because the waves are so small, are so fast and small that they can penetrate and cause disruption. So you could have, I don't know, something with your, you could get potential birth issues, or if your woman's pregnant, she might have some issues. But I mean, when you're talking the phone millimeter wave, it's way below, even way below UV rays, even way before infrared. You have infrared all over your house, all over all kinds of devices. People don't say anything about. So my point is, if you're gonna pick something to complain about in terms of RF energy or electromagnetic energy, 5G is the dumbest thing to compare with, because you're already exposed to levels more than that in 4G. So arguably, you're better off going 5G, because it's a smarter system. You're going to get less power, and you have so much other things, like I just talked about, that you're seeing day to day. So why pick 5G? It's just because there was one study done where people were comparing it to millimeter wave of military applications, which, like I said, are already tested and they are safe.
Yeah.
There's studies that they damage your retina and cause some kind of issues in the long term. But again, you're comparing a NASCAR application to a go-kart. Like, we're safe.
Well, and I think that, I mean, people are complaining that it's damaging the retina and it causes anxiety and all of that, but the device in itself is doing that to you, and we've known that since the development of the device. It's not necessarily the power behind the device, it's everything included. So if you're on your iPhone complaining about your 5G network, but also pissed off that your internet speed is low, you're a hypocrite.
So I gotta answer Una's question, because that's a very good question, because a lot of people ask that. So let me explain why you can't do that. So how it works is, okay, your antenna gets powered by some external power, right? So there's power coming into your tower. So you have a max power. So let's say your antenna can put out 150 watts based on the hardware configuration, right? You cannot go up, you cannot crank something up that doesn't exist. It's like your car. It's 300 horsepower. It's a V8 engine, 5.0 liter. That's it. It's not going to do 400 kilometers. That's just the way it is. So people need to understand this cranking up business does not work. That works for the military application, because they have 300 kilowatts to play with. So they can say, okay, how strong do I want to be? So the 5G station will have a max power. Let's say it's got 5 different subarrays. It has a max power that it will use if it ever needs to. But it'll never need to, because the max power only happens when you have 2,000 people all trying to get signal. It does not exist in real life. I mean, that scenario is very like corner case. But again, you can't crank it up. Like max is max.
Hassan, I also see Claire asking, people are claiming this is hurting animals. Is that true?
So people have been asking me that, but like my argument to that is, the current 5G applications are in the same power levels as 4G. So I personally have not seen these videos. People have told me bees died and certain animals have been dying, birds have been falling from the sky, whatever. I don't really believe it. And there's no reason, because think about it, it's like this, okay? Let's say 5G, you were to think that was the cause. 5G just got deployed, and it's going to take another 5 to 10 years to deploy. It's not quick, because you have to set up grids. You have to get city approvals. It's basically an investment and getting approvals to build upon a network. So let's say in Ottawa, we started at the low-end frequency plus the current 4G frequencies for Orleans. By the time we get to Canada, it's going to be a lot of time. And so to say that that's killing birds is bullshit. I mean, I don't think it's possible. I'm pretty sure it's impossible. But maybe there's other things. Like, I don't know who filmed that and how they filmed it. Like, I saw a video of a bunch of deer on the floor, and later on I found out they like jumped over it was like an accident. But someone filmed them and said it's 5G. So,
yeah, they're doing it in front of the tower.
I mean, if it's gonna listen, it's not like poison where you just shoot you and you die. Like, that's why I'm like, it's not like the tree is gonna just collapse. These things, long term, you could make this argument. At the millimeter wave for cell phone application, it's the long-term testing has not been done, which makes sense because it's new technology. And so that getting the licenses, and by the way, you don't just deploy whatever you want. Every country has standards. So in Health Canada, Industry Canada, there's a specific guidelines. And for cellular phone, I think you have to be 50 times below the margin of the limit to roll out a system. So you have 50 times margin before something is declared dangerous. And those limits are defined by, people that know what they're talking about, not just random people that don't understand the physics behind it. So long term, 10 years, 20 years, I don't know. If I was to get some condition in 20 years, I can't say it's from this because I'm exposed to all kinds of spectrum. It's everywhere. Like I said, it's your TV, it's your phone, it's your Wi-Fi. When you have a connected world like we do, you're getting hit by signals everywhere you go. So that argument to me is not valid.
Yeah. I see Rob is saying, isn't 5G tech already in our Wi-Fi routers?
No, that's another misunderstanding. So Rob, so 5G is not 5 gigahertz. It's 5th generation. So your router works on 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. Those are still sub 6 gigahertz frequency. Your Wi-Fi and your cellular phone have nothing to do with each other. Yeah. They're absolutely two different technologies, two different protocols. So your 5G generation, not gigahertz, your 5G network runs on frequencies below 6G. And right now, there are, I think in Canada, we do 2.5 or maybe 3, and 3.5 is actually China, and then we do 600 megahertz. So how it works is basically, if I'm Rogers, I request from the government certain bands, they sell that to me, and that's where I operate at. And based on that, I can decide, how much power and how much speeds I can get. They do their business case and figure out what's their best in their scenario. And so to answer again Rob's question, your Wi-Fi is running on 5 gigs. That has nothing to do with 5G. It's like a totally different thing.
A different thing.
Yeah.
Now, Hassan, honestly, I always say I study people, and I've noticed that people want a reason to be afraid. So let's give them that. Let's tell them your phone is going to kill you. And let's tell them exactly how it's going to ruin their life. The 5G or the speed of the internet, how it's going to kill them. Since 2009 to 2019, more accidents have happened in a car by the use of a cell phone. There have been estimated over 1,000 deaths.
Yeah.
Well over.
Well, probably way more, yeah.
Yeah, probably way more than that. Now, of those numbers, would you say that the millimeter wave or this technology that everybody's afraid of has killed anybody within those dates?
Well, it doesn't exist, right? So millimeter wave right now, no country's running it properly. So only Italy has bought those frequencies, but they're not running a network on it. So those people are dying from using the cell phone in terms of they're using it because they're addicted. So they can't wait 2 minutes. And I have this problem too. I'm on the phone a lot. So,
Yeah.
you're on the phone a lot. That to me, I think the applications, so right now the human applications for 5G haven't been all thought out yet. It's more like uh, the companies are going to deploy the system, and the people and and the technology groups are going to have to decide how can we use that to better our lives or do whatever we want to do, right? Make things easier for us. So um, the problem with 4G and 3G and all these things is people already are spending way too much time on their phone and on their devices. They're already way too connected. So in terms of connectivity, they have all the connectivity they need. But what 5G will do is it'll make that like exponentially worse, because now you're gonna do more fun stuff. Like, for example, you can have all kinds of virtual reality applications. You probably won't be able to tell what's real. So if you're a depressed guy, you might be on that thing all day because it's a beautiful world in there. And that's going to be an addiction problem for sure, 100%. People are going to be so into these, because imagine a company invests and comes up with this new technology that you put something on, and because of the 5G, the bandwidth and the speeds and the connectivity, it can really give you something that you will never experience before. And so I think people are going to start getting like really addicted to that.
Yeah.
So there's going to be good and bad. Like the good will be, the hospital industry, the waste management industry. It's more green energy because it's going to be because why? There's so much data that machines can process that you will be not making any waste. Right now in your factories, there's all kinds of waste. But the downside is, you're going to lose a lot of jobs. So eventually the highways are going to be all automated. There's going to be no accidents. There's going to be nobody driving. The fuel consumption will be perfect. The waste, like they'll be picking up your garbage at perfect times. There's going to be no delays. All these things are going to be better for somebody, but bad for somebody else that doesn't have the capability to learn a new skill, because they're going to lose jobs. So that, to me, the biggest risk is privacy, job loss, and addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to generate a society of less intellects, stupider?
Yeah, for sure. Like, think about it now. How many people rely on Siri and Google already to do 90% of the research people do? What do? They just go online, whatever they read, they're like, yeah, that sounds great, right? Copy paste. So imagine now that information is, way more available.
Yeah.
I can go outside. I mean, even in China now, they have fully connected cities in some places. So what that means is basically they have millions of devices hooked up to the network, from Wi-Fi to sensors to like really small sensors, to cameras to mics. So basically, you don't need a wallet, you don't need a phone, you don't need shit. You can just go outside, you can order whatever you want, and they'll know who you are by your voice. But that's good for some people. They like it because the day-to-day tasks become easier. But for some people, they're gonna be like, shit, man. They're gonna know where I am like all the time. Like already they know where you are because you have a phone, right? And you have GPS. But now they're gonna like really know where you are.
Yeah.
In terms of if you're a criminal, if you're whatever you are, they can access that information very easily. So that information, the problem with the information is it's in the hands of tech companies who aren't really the best people to have this information. Like, you don't want Facebook, who already violated all kinds of privacy issues, having all your information. I would rather, someone that is a little bit more trusted and has good firewalls, and I know I'm not going to lose that kind of information. So that's going to be the problem.
So with the increase of the speed and the information coming so quickly, Hassan, is it going to cause a sense of mutilated genetics or anything like that? Is it going to have any internal effect on anybody?
So like I said, the frequencies are well below ionizing. I mean, you have, if you look at the spectrum, like I said, you have, let's forget about all the low frequency stuff. So once you get to the phones, then you have microwaves, and then you have infrared, and then you have UV rays. All that is past it. So You need to get to gamma and X-rays to cause those kind of damages. Another word, radiation, also confuses people. They think like, like nuclear, right? They think like a bomb, right? So like it's not that kind of radiation. Like this is basically the energy that's radiating. Is it strong enough to disrupt your cells? Yes or no? And it's no. The only effect in the bands that it's functioning, the only effect is a thermal effect. So you might feel like some on the millimeter side, if you, on the weapon, it's a warm sensation, like you feel like you're getting heated up, but you're not getting like it's not going in you and melting you
from the inside out.
well that so when you go tanning, that's what it is. You're getting that can cause skin cancer, right? Let's say, right? Um, your phone is way below that. So, I mean, if anything, it's much safer than what you're doing. And I know people that tan like every day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And I think a lot of people aren't concerned with what they're doing. They're more concerned with what's coming. I know I've heard a lot of concerns with that people are masking the towers into these lampposts.
Okay, let me explain that. No, it's not masking. So if I get a permit with the city, what does the city tell me? I don't want you putting up stuff that's gonna not be like they want the cosmetics of the city. Well, I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what I mean. It's gotta look nice, right? So, so what happens is those are called microcells. So they're like they service like every 200 people. So let's say every few blocks, and those are like extenders. So like the big tower sends a signal to those towers, and those towers send little signals, right? Now imagine they had just something ugly, right? Because the big tower, it's far, it's very high, right? It's ugly, who cares? No one's really gonna see it. But like in the city, and some of these small cells are in malls, right? So let's say you're in a mall, and you have a pico cell or a small cell, a micro cell. It needs to look nice, So they're not trying to hide it because if you open it, I mean, it's obvious. You can tell it's slightly different. They even have them sometimes in like a tree, right?
Yeah.
Because again, permits. So everything starts with permits. So like nobody's gonna give you a permit if your shit looks like ugly, right? Like if you just start sticking things that don't look good, right? It's 100% not a let's turn people away from it. I mean, you're gonna know. You should know how you're getting your cell phone power. Like, I mean, if you're physically on a 5G network, you should have basic understanding of how that's getting to you. It's not coming to you by miracle. Like, you got to know where these things are, And most people can't point those out. Those ones that they're damaging and people are vandalizing them. They're vandalizing phone towers, 4G towers. Like, it's not like you can look at it and know. Well, I can tell, but like most people won't be able to tell. They'll just see, oh yeah, it looks like 5G, but it's probably 4G.
I see Carlos Lima asking, the problem is that exactly who will control this information? And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the information being so available.
Yeah. So like, see, like that's always a risk, right? So right now, basically, you are enjoying the benefits of having you're enjoying they're rolling out a service for you, right? So let's say Rogers rolls out a nice 5G service, and now all these companies like Facebook, everybody wants to use it, right? And you're now stuck in the middle, right? So you need to know that your stuff is out there now because not only does the internet companies have all that access, but also that information is going through Rogers or whoever like is the network owner. And in some countries like China, it's almost better in China because the government runs everything. So like they have good firewalls so nobody can get into their country. And so they actually like, in my opinion, they provide good service for their people and they take care of their information much better because China has a very good firewall before they deployed 5G. Canada doesn't. I mean, if we have all these 5G towers and they're from China, guess what? They're gonna see everything that we're doing. So it's a problem. So that's why the U.S. has a different approach for rolling out 5G. They have their own tower distributors and they have their own chip designers for the phone. They're like basically a competitor of what China's doing, because China is basically selling their stuff to Canada, UK, and all these other countries.
Well, and I want to ask you and whoever's viewing this right now, is if we weren't in a global pandemic, would 5G still be as big as a topic as it is?
Yeah, because I mean, people have been talking about it for a while. It's not. It's more now because I think more people are like linking it to Corona and all this crazy stuff. Or they're like, why are they doing it now? They've been doing it. It's not like they just started doing it. And basically, the 5G timeline is such a long timeline, right? So right now we're in like phase like zero. Like we're just starting to get permits. It's gonna take probably 4 or 5 years to get it to work at some better speed, and then eventually in another 5 years it'll be like, because think like I said, there the network gets provided first, then everybody has to figure out how they're gonna use it. So the applications, the phones right now, the phones they can't run on the both. They have a hard time with power consumption and staying online and without dying. If it's because it's got to go from 4G to 5G and the different levels of 5G. So the phone technology is not there yet. The companies haven't figured out how they want to use it in terms of all the healthcare and so it's a long ways away. I would say 20, whatever 20. I would say at least 5 years before a lot of people will know what a regular using 5G. Like the phone's not gonna be cheap. It's gonna be like $1,000, $2,000. Like who's gonna go? Why would if I'm getting a nice service with 4G? Why do I need a 5G? That's how a lot of people are gonna think.
Yeah,
Especially if it dies in like 30 minutes.
it's true. I had another question, and it was asking how can people trust that this is how can people trust this technology if the people creating them also create weapons for war?
Well, they don't. This is not created by weapons companies. So um, the best technology, whether you like it or not, goes to military. So in the company that I work for, we design aerospace products for space and defense. And the defense applications, I mean, we've been using beam steering antennas for a long time. It's nothing new. But it's because those applications are on an airplane. The plane needs to send a signal to a satellite. The satellite has to send the signal down to the ground state. So it's very specific technology. They're using it for their own purposes. So the cell phone technologies that are trying to do that at a lower level, they're behind. They're just starting to do that because they're saying, oh, we can use that antenna configuration and we can improve our systems on ground. So it's all those designs have already been designed for other applications. The cellular is just late. It's like late in the game.
Just came after.
Yeah.
Hassan, do you believe that all of this 5G controversy was created by the same pot to cause this type of dialogue, these conspiracies?
I personally think most of the arguments are not to cause. It's people believe they're right. I've seen like some big like some presidents, vice presidents of companies talk about it, right? So now they might be looking at really down the road, right? Because they're not really thinking for your phone. Like you gotta also think what else can be done with it later, right? So I can understand that. So the where it's coming from is a good place in terms of logic, but the problem is when someone goes out and says this is going to be dangerous. Now the general people, they don't know how to distinguish between what's right or wrong, right? I can tell you in my company, like we're a telecom company. I've never heard of anybody talk about this, and we work with super high power, really dangerous stuff. Like if I talk about 5G at my work, they're gonna laugh at me because it's like, everybody's an engineer there. That's like something stupid for them, they're going to space. They have lasers. They have much more things to worry about than what 5G is doing. So,
right. So you think there's no immediate concern whatsoever. What about the harm of the waves and the speed of information being absorbed by the human mind? Aside from it making us stupider, what about things like Alzheimer's, dementia, ADD, ADHD, and just less retention for information?
yeah, I think that's valid. Rob had a question about the Microsoft guy. Yeah, so Rob, I watched that, and again, he's specifically talking about the Israeli military using millimeter waves in active denial systems, they call them. And again, like that's a totally wrong comparison. Now he might not know because he's a software guy that like not everybody's gonna know everything about each subject. Like I don't know, I'm not gonna know as much software as that guy. So I'm not gonna go talk to him about software. But I want to go online and post a video about Microsoft claiming certain things because I don't know that. But like from an RF point of view, I mean it's sort of a valid question in terms of saying there's no research done from the cellular use, but we are not going to use millimeter wave, I don't believe, in Canada for two reasons. The cellular companies have to invest billions of dollars in the phone to work with millimeter wave and to get all the infrastructure. Millimeter waves don't go far, so you need to build towers everywhere, little towers. It's too costly. Think about it this way: China doesn't use millimeter wave simply for that reason. They're thinking, okay, with my new antennas and my new software, I can get up, 30 times faster speeds already, or almost to 100 with the new chipsets. Why do I need to go to 1,000 times? I don't need it. It's not cost. In the end, everything is a business cost model. What am I going to get for all this? And they're like, shit, I'm not going to need it, right? Because you already have more computing power than you need. You have more. It solves the latency issue. Latency is like, how the time delays and where signals get back and forth. So for 4G, like if you're on your phone and the signals, like it doesn't matter. But like for 5G, if you're doing, they call it ultra reliable things like surgeries, automation, it can't be like Wi-Fi where, your neighbor takes it for a second and then it drops. That thing can't happen.
Yeah. I saw Claire said it's because Microsoft's out making vaccines. Rob said that's why people are freaking out. It's true. I think a lot of the controversy is because the people who are sort of backing all of this up are also backing other things up in terms of funding. Is there, Hassan, any code of ethics that they have to abide by on a social level? Do they have to offer respect for privacy, or are we willingly giving them all of that when you sign on to the network?
I don't know. Like, I haven't really read much on that. I mean, we live in Canada, so we're in a much better position in terms of privacy than some countries. Like China is going to do whatever they want with that information, right? But I think in Canada, like from a safety point of view on physical RF, we have guidelines. Industry Canada has clear guidelines. The US has FCC guidelines and CE everywhere else that basically you can't put those stickers on devices that are not, everything electronic has that sticker. It's tested by labs. So how it works is it's not like I get to test it. Like it has to be through lab testing. The results have to be approved by the industry, right? Which is like the approvals. You could argue, yeah, maybe they can pay them. Like FAA and aviation, like the Boeing issue. There was some loose things happening between the United States and Boeing, but I mean 5G is a worldwide thing, so you'd have to have a fully corrupt international body to deploy it if there's issues, right? And that's not the case. I mean, the levels that they're testing to is stuff they've already tested with 4G. Like it's not gonna be any worse.
But that's in terms of physical health. But what in terms of like the social decline or the decline it's gonna cause? There's no code of ethics bounding them with any of that, is there?
No, because like how do you gauge that, right? Like you believe me, you're gonna see like it's gonna be great for a lot of people if you're a strong-minded person that uses it the right way. But if you're like a person who's gonna need it and depend on it for certain things, it's gonna be a problem. Yeah. Like especially like right now, you look at a lot of movies, like you look at a lot of shows. Like if you look at Westworld or Altered Carbon, I watch a lot of sci-fi, and I always why I like sci-fi is that whenever I watch a sci-fi movie or show, I'm like that could happen. They're not coming up with those ideas by luck, because they're actually things that could happen. The problem is the technology is not there yet. But once it gets there, someone's gonna say, maybe I could, upload some subconscious on a machine, and I will have my robot now do everything that a human can do. Why not? It could do it. The robot by itself can't do it, but if the network is fast enough to give it all the information it needs, and it's gonna be processing a gazillion, data in a second, then obviously someone's gonna be using it. Yeah. So you could have soldiers that are like no real humans. Why not? Right? They're going to do all that. The way I see it is, if any country does not deploy 5G, they're going to be left in the Stone Age, and nobody wants to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody wants to be left behind. And I think, like, what is the solution? Because they're going to do it regardless if the people want it or not. It's happening. It's being done as we speak. So what is the solution to alleviate everybody's fears? Is it just to simply say, if you don't want it, don't use it?
Yeah, that's the best thing to do, because think about it. Okay, let's say now if there's two things. Either you're worried about the physical RF danger. If that's the case, then you should go live in a cave because you got other problems everywhere else, right?
Right.
There's energy everywhere that's going to cause you a problem, right? So if you're worried about the other side of the addiction and all that, then control it. Like my kids don't even have an iPad. Why? Because I know that shit is not good for them. If I leave them with an iPad, they're going to start fighting. They're not going to do their work. They're going to be so. If that little device is making kids that addicted, what do you think a device that basically puts them in another world going to do? They'll never listen to you. They'll never go to class. It's game over, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Hassan Jama himself. Go live in a cave, everybody, please. If you are
we can all go to, let's go to Cuba, like what's his name said.
Yeah, it's true. I thought they were putting 5G in Cuba too.
No, Cuba's probably chilling, with like dial-up.
Well, and that's the thing. I think from dial-up to now, we've generated a dependency on this type of internet. And I know myself, when my phone's being slow, I'm pissed. And I'm like, why aren't you going fast enough? And we don't realize the need for it, but we want to complain about it regardless. It's frustrating.
Yeah, like everybody gets used to, like humans have a crazy appetite for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay, you look at this time right now, okay? Who made the most money?
Yeah.
Amazon, Netflix, these type of companies. Why? Because we're addicted. We can't get off the damn phone. We can't stop ordering shit. We can't stop watching stuff. So, we are the problem. It's not the technology is going to get there because there's military applications, there's industrial applications, and it needs to be done to make the world better in many ways. Now, you could argue some companies might use it in a bad way, yeah, but that's the case with anything. Like 4G could be used in a bad way if someone wants. GPS can be used. I mean, they're shooting down with drones using GPS all around the world through satellites. So, I mean, if they want to get you, they're gonna get you, whether you like it or not.
Well, I think we would be very simple-minded to believe that this 5G is what's going to harm us. Like you said, the weapons of mass destruction, the privacy invasion, it's always been there. Now it's just quicker how they can use it against us. Hassan, I see Serena asking, what are your thoughts on Starlink?
So, I don't know, is that Tesla's launching the small satellites? So basically what that is okay, if that is the right name, I don't know what the name is because my company is working with a different company in terms of launching small satellites. So what they're doing is, one of the problems around the world is there's a lot of people that don't have broadband or any connectivity, right? Like probably 1/3 or maybe even more that don't have any internet at all in terms of any connection. Because right now your whole world is fiber optics everywhere. So that's how everybody's getting connected, and then they get Wi-Fi, right? So what these guys are doing now is they're launching low orbit satellites that basically go out in the low orbit space, and many of them, thousands of them, and basically they talk to each other and will be giving signals down to ground stations, and from those ground stations, people can access full speeds without having to go through Bell or Rogers in terms of home internet, right? So broadband worldwide is going to be, it's already happening, and they're already passed certain tests trying to figure out how to make it achievable. The problem with that is it's going to cost them so much money that either Tesla or Amazon will realize it's not worth it, because the plan is basically they want to launch 7,000 to 10,000 satellites like yearly. So they're going to be literally all in space, like it's called mesh, and they all talk to each other with high intensity, like it's using optics like lasers. And so the laser technology has to be defined, how to talk to each other, and then how to get the signals back. So it's a long ways away, but they want to get it in 3-4 years. They want to have that coverage worldwide. As far as dangers, I don't think there's any more dangers, because, like, again, the signal's going from there to ground station. Like, it's not like going to give you more of a danger than what you're already getting. But they're going to do that. They're actively pursuing that. I think that and 5G are like competing because they're saying, you know, with that we can get also crazy speeds to everybody. You know, I don't need. I can be in Africa in the middle of nowhere, and I can have full service. Yeah.
Full service there. Hassan, there's another question for you. Any risk for a kid holding an iPad versus it being 16 inches away?
Yeah. So remember in the last talk I said the things to worry about are the main things to worry about. The kid 16 inches away is fine. Like I would do like 2 feet, um, and sleeping with anything Wi-Fi, baby monitor too close is not good, especially for babies, right? And then phone, the biggest problem with the phone is like doing this. So when you answer your phone, the highest power is when you say answer the call. That's when your phone is gaining the most power from the tower. So the best thing to do is if you're going to use your phone, use it in Bluetooth, because Bluetooth is very safe, or a speaker, or basically, you know, don't put it like this. Don't put it on your head ever.
Hold it a bit away.
Because the difference, that the absorption from this versus that is a huge difference. So if you're gonna use the phone, put it like two centimeters away, and then like don't sleep with it in your like beside your head. You know, I turn it off. I put it on airplane mode.
Right.
And then another one, actually, another one that people don't know about. If your phone has bad signal anywhere and a low reception, don't use it. Don't avoid using it because, like I said, the 4G systems, they're not smart, right? So like the tower can't get to you, and the phone's gonna heat up and request max power, and so you're getting the worst scenario to get because the network's trying to keep that link alive, so it's gonna try its hardest. And if you're in an elevator and your phone heats up, that's why it's heating up. So don't use it.
I think regardless, what we have to accept and understand is that technology is going to advance whether we like it or not, and it'll be in some areas for our benefit and some areas for our downfall. I mean, something as simple as a child who can't hear, now they have the cochlear.
Yeah.
We have friends who their daughters are eligible for it to get, and you can't expect it to benefit you in one area and not draw you back in another. It's just the way life works, unfortunately.
There's pros and cons to everything. So the way I look at it is use the good applications of where you can, and then, you know, if you're not a criminal, don't worry about them having your picture or knowing where you are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to happen regardless. They're going to need to keep tabs on us somehow. Populations are growing. It's unfortunate, but it's a sad reality. And as much as we want to do something about it, I don't know that we can, other than to accept life and just live the best that we can.
Yeah, it's you can't stop. So the reason why you can't, like I said, why you can't stop it is the companies are investing billions in something that they don't even know how the technology companies are going to use. So like, let's say, you know, Huawei is rolling out this network, and they're hoping that now smart people are going to realize, oh, you know, in my hospital we can do this and we can get this much, you know, and in agriculture, in industries like big industries, automotive, anything that requires robotics, it's going to be a big change, a huge change.
Yes, so. It will be. It will be. Thank you, Hassan, so much. I know you clarified a lot of questions, I think, for a lot of people. Again, I'm not big on the whole 5G conspiracy. I think it's technology. Let's roll with it. It'll benefit us somehow. It'll draw us back other ways, but it is what it is at this point. It's 2020. We expected cars to fly, so I mean.
Yeah. It's
so
like you see all this stuff in movies, and people, you know, like, you know, back then we thought all this is going to be happening now, but there is a lot of advancements happening. And 5G is going to be that one thing that it's going to like leap. It's going to be a big leap because now people are going to realize, oh shit, with this much power in terms of how much bandwidth I can move around, how much data can be moved around, they're going to start doing stuff that you would never thought of before.
Of course. I see these companies also have families who will be using this technology if it's harmful. Yeah, I mean, essentially, I've said this before. The world is a giant microwave right now. Like, you know, they used to tell you don't stand with your cordless phone in front of the actual because you'll get zapped. This is our world. We have to accept that it's not going to change and it's going to get worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, cool. So Coco's point is good because, like, you know how I always say, okay, look, if Trump is on his 5G phone, I mean, he's getting the same radiation as everybody. It's not like he's safe, you know, like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's everywhere, you know, like, so everybody's going to get equal amounts. It's not like, you know, you can get less than me unless you're like totally isolated, right?
Well, I saw a picture of a tree facing a tower, and half the tree was burnt and the other half was fine. And all that I could think of was, if this technology is really as bad as everybody say it was, why wouldn't the tree die completely? It wouldn't only half be okay. This doesn't
Yeah,
make
and also think the wattage of those towers is what, let's say it's 10 watts on those small towers that they use. 10 watts is nothing. It's like almost like your phone.
yeah.
So I don't believe it, you know, because like from a physics point of view and engineering point of view, like there's a certain power that emits from that tower, and it's not gonna cause a flame or, you know, something to die. Yeah, but you don't know, like, who maybe someone went and, you know, like, people are crazy, right? So they'll maybe someone went and like killed half, sprayed it with something.
Who knows? And if you didn't see it, you know, in real life with your own eyes, everything is photoshopped nowadays. You just don't know what you can trust and what you can't. So you have to
Yeah,
be.
I mean, I know, out of all the people that I know that work in this industry, I don't know one person that's gotten any sickness like
Yeah.
directly related to this. So like, and that these guys are working there 30, 40 years. So not so, and the things that we work on, there is safety precautions, but those are high power devices. There's a reason why. I mean, these aren't high, what we're talking about now are not high power devices.
Yeah. Hassan, it's gonna cut you off soon, so I'm gonna
Okay.
say good night. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate all the information. I'm gonna save this, guys, and it'll be uploaded to YouTube soon for whoever missed the show. Thank you, Hassan. Appreciate all the information.
All right. Bye.
Take care. Guys, that was awesome. Such a smart, intelligent man. Tomorrow night, I have Amy from the Mental Health Gala that will be on to talk about sort of her journey throughout the whole experience of coming into the gala and how she found it and all of that. And it's the 4th annual anniversary of the gala, so I think it'll be a little bit emotional for her, but I'm excited to chat with her. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thank you again, Hassan, and everyone who watched. Oh,